Welcome to Calling All Voices, brought to you by the Dementia Action Alliance and the Global Council on Alzheimer's Disease. My name is Karen Love, and I am the CEO of the Dementia Action Alliance. In this podcast, you will hear from people living with dementia from the Black and the LGBTQ+ communities. They'll share stories about how resilience and persistence can help people to continue to live meaningful lives, even with the diagnosis of dementia. And you'll hear participants discuss why it's important that we call all voices to share their experiences. Today's episode will feature discussions with Deborah Tan and Gretchen Lowery.
Hello, my name is Deborah. I am the interviewer on today, and we're calling all voices to this particular podcast featuring Gretchen Lowery. So how are you today?
I'm doing great. What about yourself, Deborah?
It's good. It's been a good day. Today is Friday, right?
Yes, it is. Thank God for Friday.
I knew you would finish the sentence for me. So let's get started. Tell us, Gretchen, about your journey with dementia. And I want to hear it in two different phases. When did you realize that things had changed? Or how? When and how did you realize things had changed? Tell me some things that you noticed about yourself that was a little bit different.
Trying to concentrate, trying to connect words in conversation. I think when I first realized there was a problem, and I think I might have mentioned it to you the last interview we had, I was going to pick up a dear friend of mine from the hospital. Now in Hot Springs, Arkansas, we only have 2 hospitals. And so, which I knew both of them very well. But when I proceeded to go pick her up, I could not, in my mind, remember where the hospital was. So, and I circled around, I'm saying, well, what's going on here? I know where these hospitals are. And so I was just felt confused, frustrated, because I knew many times I've even been in the hospital, but for whatever reason, I couldn't connect in the direction of where I needed to go to be at the hospital. Then finally I drove around, saw one hospital, went in to inquire if my friend was there, and they said no, it was the other hospital. So I proceeded to go to the other hospital and find myself back to the first hospital. So that right there in itself, that let me know it's something definitely wrong and I'm in trouble.
Okay. And so that's interesting that you stated that, one, you knew something was wrong, but you automatically went to trouble. Why did trouble pop into your mind?
Trouble popped into my mind for the simple fact that I had no trouble in the past with this particular situation. And then prior to that, when I was working a while back, I was having directions as far as getting on the freeway. And, my place of employment wasn't really that far. You just get on the overpass and you be right there. But somehow I got twisted around on the overpass. Okay. So that was kind of frustrating also. Things that I knew I had, I had in my mind that, hey, I know where the direction is, I know where I'm headed, and then ending up doing this the opposite, being confused, not knowing, not remembering, and that was kind of very frustrating and very scary to me.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, that must have been a little frightening?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Very frightening.
Familiar places and you were getting turned around.
Yes.
Yeah. So for you, that meant trouble. That's the word.
That meant trouble. That meant trouble for me. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So then tell me, so that denoted trouble. We got that piece.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take you to finally decide, I need to go to the doctor?
It took me a while, and it took me a lot of, Of course, my immediate family was aware that I was in trouble. And I did, of course, mention it to them, and they realized too I was in trouble. It took me a long time to want to accept it. I'll say it like that. I know I was in trouble. It was kind of hard for me to accept that, hey, it's something definitely going on. You need to find out what it is. And I was maybe also afraid of the unknown of them diagnosing what it could be. But it was definitely a sign of trouble for me. And it was my family members that also was aware that there was trouble. They noticed little things. I tried to cover it up much as possible, but things like being able to get to your job and not get lost on the bypass, or either going to one of the local hospitals. They, knew also that, hey, it's something definitely going on.
Gotcha. In this particular conversation, we're going to be exploring stigmas and perceptions about dementia. So let's park it there for a few minutes and think about that. Do you think, or in your humble opinion, do you think that there are stigmas attached, that people think a certain way about people living with dementia, or people have a perception about them living with dementia, kind of like stereotypical things that are not necessarily true at all? What do you think about that?
I think that's pretty much, I would sum it up this way, that I think it would be stereotyping people, because when you kind of venture into the unknown, and they're not sure what's going on, and then it's been stigma about, oh, well, you got to be careful. They might burn down the house. They might do things because they're not really cognizant of what they're doing. And I can understand that. So that kind of would most likely give the loved ones some type of signal. Hey, we need to watch her or watch him a lot more, because, they're not really thinking like they should think. And so therefore that, being the family would be aware of it and say, well, what is she going to do next? And I can understand family members and loved ones being concerned. But then on my perspective of, I'm saying, well, I don't want to give up my independency. I don't want to feel that I'm useless, or that I have to depend solely on my loved ones to take me to the store, take me to the doctor. I think that's one of the painful things when you realize that you do have this disease, that the things that you used to do, that you can no longer do, and you have to have assistance. And then for me, a lot of times I'm thinking, well, I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, most people don't want to be a burden on their loved ones, on their friends, and so therefore that kind of sticks in. Wow, I don't really want to be there. I don't want to be in their space. I don't want to feel that they, that because of my condition, that, they have to now more or less, what's the word I'm trying to say? They have to alternate their way of life because they have to oversee someone that they love. And that's kind of painful.
You have really painted a wonderful picture for me, and certainly the listening audience, particularly around the word perception, how people perceive people living with dementia. I know that with my great-grandmother, and probably generations ago, when we talk about stigmas, I know that I've heard many people say, a couple of generations removed from myself, that, oh, they just crazy, or they just senile, or, have you heard those type of things maybe in the past days of your life? Have you ever heard of that in terms of people stigmatizing others?
Well, for those, because I, can reflect back and I used to be a caregiver years ago, and I love dealing with seniors. I had a compassion for seniors. And I remember my first experience of the signs of dementia, and I really didn't know. Now, this is me stigmatizing this patient that I was taking care of. Well, is she crazy? What's wrong with her? And, she, and her son, the son told me, well, mom has dementia. This is the first that I'd heard of it. And you have to be really careful, what she does and, and watch her at all times, because there's one time she got out the house when I was in there fixing her breakfast, and she's headed down the street, on the sidewalk. And I'm saying, well, Annie, come on, sweetheart, we need to go back and have breakfast. And in her mind, she figures she's going to work. But Annie was in her 80s, close to 90s.
Wow.
So from, right there, I got a glimpse of what dementia entails, a person going back into their mind of what they were in the past, or what the things that we're doing. And in her mind, she perceived, hey, I got to go to work. She didn't perceive that, hey, you've been retired years ago, you have no job. But in her mind, and you couldn't convince her any different.
Yeah, wow. And so you said, I find it very interesting that you thought initially, when you were told about dementia by the son of your client, Annie, your first word that came to your mind was, is she crazy or what? Is that kind of what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did
He
you
had to kind of break it down and explain it to me, because I was not educated. I was not aware of this disease.
Yeah. I like how you use that word educated. And so now that would not be a word, because you would find that very to really stigmatize someone if you were to say that someone with dementia is crazy. Am I correct?
Correct. I think there's a difference between the two.
Oh, yes.
But I'm not a physician. I'm not a psychiatrist. So I don't know the terminology or how they would diagnose or, the signs. But yes, people, I think when you're not in the norm, they have all type of ideas. Well, is she crazy? They're on drugs, or what's, they're kind of pretty much saying, well, what's going on? Then this is not the norm. The behavior has changed, so it alarms a lot of people. And then some people I've heard in the past, oh, you got to watch them because they'll burn down the house. Or like in Annie's case, they'll go out somewhere, and in their mind they're thinking that they're okay, but they're not okay.
Right.
And it's very sad, very sad.
I hear you. So we're going to fast forward just a little bit. You were given a diagnosis of dementia. Tell me what that experience was like.
Like I didn't want to accept it. I downplayed it. My daughter went with me, and she was telling the I don't know, I guess they're called psychiatrists, I don't know. And my daughter went with me, and she says, Mom, why are you sitting up there and not telling what's really going on with you? I kind of wanted to keep it hidden. And so she told some of the signs that she had, noticed in my behavior. I try to downplay it, but, those people, they go to school, they know the signs, they know what to look for. So no matter how I downplayed it, like, I'm just having a bad day or something like that, they knew, so it's a horrific disease. I'm glad that they doing research, and I must say that I applaud you and other people who are coming together to bring awareness to community and to family members and caregivers. This is something that needs to be more or less brought to public attention, and that way they not only look at you as crazy, but then they can understand the disease itself.
Gotcha. Well, you have really set me on a great path. You mentioned a word that I want to talk about now, and that is of community. So you're in Hot Springs, Arkansas, correct?
Correct.
How does your community perceive dementia? Do you think that they're pretty much aware? Do you think that you can go around to various places and pick up pamphlets about the different types of dementia? How user-friendly is your community when we think about the topic dementia?
You know what? That's a good question. I don't know how to proceed with that or how to express that, because up to this point, I've been very active in the community with my husband, who is a community advocate, which I was, and that's something I love doing in the community. And then also we're active in the church. I notice that, even though people might say things not directly to me, but maybe behind my back, but in the community, I think people, if they seen a different behavior, that will automatically alarm a person to say, hey, it's something wrong. I can't pinpoint it, but it's something wrong with that person. They're not expressing themselves. They're not acting the same, and a lot of times in our community, I think it needs to be more awareness. Only time I can recall that I see any pamphlets, and that's when you go into the doctor, and that's dealing with people who they already been diagnosed. But I think it would be great if they would, bring more information to the public and to the communities, and, where they can get more educated, because some of them might say, well, I think the old term was senile. They're just senile. And it's not necessarily senile because I'm in my faculties, but I'm just having problems right now connecting and, trying to focus the things that I used to do. I find it difficult.
I hear you loud and clear. Absolutely. Tell me this, and I'm just really interested in your perspective, just what you think. Do you think that people are open to talk about dementia? What I'm asking is, if, let's say hypothetically, I want to talk to some people, maybe at my church or on my community advocacy team that you work with in the community, and you say to them, I have dementia. Do you think that would be an easy conversation for them, for you?
It's kind of hard for me to say, Deborah, because I can put myself in that position now, because I try to stay somewhat active like I used to be.
Right.
And I try to cover up a lot of things. And I'm quite sure, in their own little private conversation, it might say that it's something going on with her. I must admit, I'm not ready to go before the church. I should. And that's something I got to prayerfully, simply because not so much of the disease, I think it needs to be brought out, but how people will stigmatize you when you come out and say, hey, I have a problem. Actually, I'm experiencing something like this now at our church. I found out with this disease, sometimes we get very agitated.
Yes.
And this is the whole purpose of the medication, is to calm you and chill you out.
That's right.
Because, somebody could say something wrong or something that maybe normally you could overlook, but you appear to be more agitated, some things about the littlest things. And so with me, it was one of the church members that agitated me somewhat, and it got into a conversation. And then it's like, hey, I want to really tell you, but then a lot of people really don't care. Some do, but a lot of people really don't. Well, I can't say for everyone, but I know some. It didn't seem like, well, when I got agitated, this particular person agitated me, we had words. Then afterwards, I thought about it and I apologized, because they don't know what's going on. I haven't got to that phase to go before my church members and say, hey, I'd like to apologize if I offended you. please be aware that I'm going through something. Do not take it personal, and so I think, again, people should know, but it's another thing to come out and be honest about it.
Okay. Yeah, can we unpack that a little bit further? I would really like to. You are real clear on how important it is to share. You are clear on that. That's obvious in this
Yes.
interview. If you don't mind sharing, though, what do you think would be the catalyst? What do you think will take you over the hump to share, to begin sharing? Tell me, what do you think is going to happen, or what could happen to make you feel in a comfortable place to open up?
I don't know. I probably would be selective because, not everybody likes you. A lot of people don't care about what you have, but for those who are concerned, like family members or friends, and they notice something different, I think you have a tendency to open up to someone like that versus someone saying you're just crazy, you're senile, and, and what have you. But someone that's really concerned and say, well, hey, I'm concerned for you. Tell me what's going on. I think maybe people might open up more to a person that's more or less receiving you, not quick to put you down because they're not aware for whatever reason. And I really think like family or close friends, that have your best interest at heart.
Yes.
They will sit down and say, well, hey, I noticed something's not right. I can't pinpoint it. And I think I can only speak for myself. I think I would open up more to someone like that than someone that's saying, well, she's this and she's that. And, so.
Okay, you've really helped me better understand. So it's not that you don't want to open up and talk about dementia, is that
Correct.
you have to feel the discernment of when to do that and with whom to do it with.
Absolutely.
You have to be
Absolutely.
comfortable. And it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, that if you feel the person is going to judge you, that is not someone you're going to open up to. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. At this point, I think if you feel a sense someone might judge you, by all means, you wouldn't open up.
Okay.
Because I don't think for me that would be to my best interest, to have someone prejudge me for a condition I have no control over.
Okay, gotcha. Wow, this is a really riveting conversation. I'm so enjoying you. I always do, but you opened up my eyes to several things already. And we're beginning to wrap it up. So let me ask you this question. You're saying great.
Okay.
When it comes to the Black community, Gretchen, I want you to advise me right now. What would you tell me to tell people of color, Black people, about how to get around being stigmatized or having not such warm and fuzzy perceptions about this disease called dementia? What would you tell me to tell them?
I think I would say it's not a Black or a white disease. First of all, it affects everyone. And it's something that the community should be aware of. I would like to address to the community that it would behoove them to educate themselves, being that it's a disease that's been stigmatized for so long and it needs to be addressed. I would say that they're probably not aware. They might see changes in their loved ones and they're not quite aware of what's going on. And through education and being aware of some of the signs, they can put a name to what, they're seeing and the behavior. I like to also bring to their attention that in order to address this, we need to be educated. People need to be educated.
People need to be educated. So that would be your seasoned advice to me if I were talking to other people of color. And I so appreciate this because this is certainly in my wheelhouse. You want me to spread awareness through education.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. All right. Well, Gretchen, it has been such a delight chatting with you today on this particular podcast. I appreciate you so much. Is there anything you want to share with us before we get out of here on today?
I want to share this, that I hope you guys continue in your crusade and your efforts in doing whatever you can to bring this this disease, before people. I want to and hope, that people will not be narrow-minded and not brush this disease up under the table or under the rug, because it might not be affecting their family at that particular time, but we never know. We never know. So, like they educate people by sickle cell anemia and schizophrenia and some of the other horrific diseases that are going on today. I'd like to encourage people to do some research on it. It can really enlighten them in what's going on with a loved one, our friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's definitely prevalent in our community, that is the Black community. So I thank you for that. And I will take your advice and I will do all that I can to educate, to bring awareness and to dismantle the myths and the stigmatizations surrounding this disease called dementia. Wow, you have a wonderful time today. I just wish you the absolute best and just take good care of yourself. Sounds good?
Thank you. Thank you so much. And the same with you, and continue on doing the good work that you're doing.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Calling All Voices. If you're interested in learning more, please see the episode notes for this podcast. In the episode notes, you can find more information about Calling All Voices and the work of the Dementia Action Alliance and the Global Council on Alzheimer's Disease. The creation of this podcast was sponsored by Otsuka America Pharmaceutical, Inc. The views expressed in this podcast reflect the views of the speakers, not the views of Otsuka America Pharmaceutical, Inc. If you liked what you heard today, please make sure to subscribe to the series, share a review, and let others know about it.